One, A-U-R-E-I-E, Welcome back to a brand new season of the NFL. Free agency, the first wave in full swing. This is First and Gold. I'm your host, Sam Gold. Welcome back to another episode. We have so much to cover. One of my favorite parts of the NFL is free agency. And man, do we have a lot of moves to get through. But we're not going to talk about all of them. We have a format. So, obviously, as you guys can tell, I am a Chiefs fan. So we're going to have to talk some Chiefs first. First time I've talked about the Chiefs in depth since we got our ass kicked in the Super Bowl. And then we're going to have our top 3 best teams so far this offseason. And then our top 3 worst teams so far this offseason. So, before we get started, don't forget to drop a like on this video. Hit that subscribe button. We got tons of NFL and sports content. We stream 6 days a week. We have a Discord you guys can join that's linked in the description. Yes, it's mid-March. Yes, I know there's a Christmas tree behind me. And yes, I'm keeping this hat on the whole time of this video. So, lock in. Here we go. All right, I think it's kind of funny how online everybody says, oh, this is the craziest free agency we've ever had. No, it's not. Everybody knows there's a giant wave that happens for about 3 days straight, and you see players in new uniforms, so everybody thinks it's crazy. But honestly, I feel like there have been definitely crazier offseasons. I think there was a lot of solid acquisitions, but this one was fun, but not like insane. So let's start with the Chiefs, of course. Oh man, where do I want to start? I guess I'll start with the offensive line because this was a huge turning point into, not ending the Chiefs dynasty. We're still a dynasty, but obviously avoiding making history and not three-peating. So let's start with the fact that the Chiefs took that information and went away and traded our best offensive lineman, Joe Thuney, to the Bears for not a 2025 fourth-round pick, but a future 2026 fourth-round pick. And look, I seemed worked up about it because that is truly how I felt when that news came out. But now thinking more about it, I still don't like it because Joe Thuney's awesome. I'm going to miss him. But I get it. We're in cap hell. We had to save $16 million in cap space, which is what we did with this move. Plus, it wasn't going to be for the next 10 years we're going to have Joe Thuney and Trey Smith. One of these guys had to go eventually. We were going to have to rather extend Joe Thuney, maybe get rid of Trey Smith, or do the opposite. So what we chose was the guy who is 9 years younger, who is arguably a better run stopper, but a worse pass protector in Trey Smith. And we didn't extend him yet, though. We just signed him to a franchise tag, which is about $23 million a year, I believe, which makes him the highest paid guard in the NFL per year right now. I don't know what to feel about that. I hope we get an extension in to save some more money later on. And with those moves being made, I did wonder, okay, what's happening with the left side of the offensive line for the rest of the offseason? Now, I kind of understood with this move that Kingsley Suamataia was probably going to get another chance at rather right or left guard, considering if we're going to keep Trey Smith or not, but this time it's going to be left guard. Fine, I'm all for giving another guy a chance. I mean, he was only a rookie last season, if you guys remember. He started at left tackle the first 2 weeks. He got benched in week 2, barely saw the field ever again. So that's not a great sign, but I do understand this move. Maybe in practice he did look better as a guard. I know he has a couple highlights where he is pulling and looks a lot better. He's got long arms, so we'll see about that. Now, the most important position, of course, who's protecting Patrick Mahomes, hopefully for the next few years, is left tackle. And we just signed Jaylen Brown from the San Francisco 49ers, 2-year, $30 million with 21 guaranteed. Who, mind you, I will say this, he only has played about 680-something snaps in his career over the last few years. He's been a backup for Trent Williams so far. But when he's been in, he's had an above-average PFF grade, which is solid. And we'll take that any day over the horrible PFF grades we've had to deal with last year, not counting Joe Thuney at left tackle. So, with the limited time he's had with his snaps, I like it so far. And the fact that it's only $15 million a year, it's not terrible. It's fine. It's just the fact that we don't have something super consistent and a well-known entity going into the season. That's what scares me once again. I just can't for sure say if our offensive line has gotten better. And that's what scares me the most because obviously that's the most important part of repairing this team and avoiding what happened last year this coming season. So I'm going to trust the process. The Chiefs are still a great run franchise and there's plenty of other moves to be made. It's still early March. I'm going to root for the guy. But it's like, look, this guy could have a low floor, but he also could have a higher ceiling. And it's just a lot to take into consideration. I hope Mahomes is okay with the move because, man, I don't want him running for his life again. But the end of the day, that's the move we made. I'm just happy we were active at that position this offseason instead of just sitting back and waiting for the draft once again. I would have hated that even more. I would have hated paying Dan Moore from the Steelers, the amount of money he got from the Titans. That would have been way worse. So 2 years, 30 mil, fine. All right, and then finally, a couple other things. We re-signed Nick Bolton. I'm happy about that. The money, $15 million a year, it's fine. 5th highest paid linebacker in the NFL. I don't love it, don't hate it, but he is an integral part of the defense. Steve Spagnuolo loves him as both a player and a leader, so fine. Now, we got rid of Justin Reed and Tershawn Wharton, and Charles Omenihu might not be coming back as well. I would like to at least keep Omenihu. I don't know. I don't like seeing these defensive pieces go. Now, we did add Christian Fulton, cornerback from the Chargers. He's a fine player, very good tackler, not great in coverage, but the big piece of news with that comes is that Trent McDuffie is finally going to be able to move back to the slot, which is where Trent McDuffie is at his best. He was not able to play that last year, which is why he didn't look just as good. He was still top 3, top 5 corner, but didn't look as good. So I like that move. And overall, if I had to give a grade for the Chiefs so far this offseason, B-, C+, I'd say B-. I'd say B- just because they were aggressive, attacking pretty much all of our needs. We still have a lot to repair this upcoming draft. So we'll see what happens in the second wave of free agency and then the draft, and we'll talk more about it as the offseason goes on. But yeah, I'll say like B-. All right, time to go into our top 3 teams so far this free agency. Honorable mention, I will say, is the New England Patriots. Now, the main reason why I'm not putting them in the top 3 is just because they haven't fully addressed their horrible wide receiver room so far. They've only signed Mac Hollins, who he's known for being barefoot. So I guess that's good. I don't know. But look, I'm still trusting them to probably get Travis Hunter in the draft. So they still had some good moves. Their defense has expanded. Carlton Davis, love that move. Milton Williams from the Eagles, fine, honorable mention. But let's move on. Number 1 in the top 3, I'm going the Chicago Bears. Now this one, I'm going to be careful because I look at the Bears the same exact way as I look at the Jets, where they could have one of the best rosters in the NFL going into the season, and I just don't trust them until they prove otherwise because they are cursed. Obviously, I love the move they made in getting Ben Johnson as their head coach, who was one of the probably the highest prospect of any head coach coming out this offseason. So good move on them. They're looking to improve the offense for Caleb Williams, and they did exactly that by patching up the number 1 reason why he wasn't as good as people thought last year, which is he was running for his life. So obviously, just like I said, Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. They got Drew Dahlman, very underrated player from the Falcons offensive line, center. And they also got guard Jonah Jackson from the Rams. So that is exactly what they need to do. They can use the draft to try to expand more on their offensive line, or even get like Ashton Genty if they fall to him. That would be crazy as well. So I do have hope in the Bears with the moves they've made so far. Now, I'm not going to go out and say they're going to be 12-5 and be super confident. But look, it's making me suspicious that this team is doing really well and this next team, which is the Minnesota Vikings, which you're going to say, Sam, I mean, Kwesi is one of the best GMs in the NFL. Kevin O'Connell, great head coach. They were literally rated, an A+ in their report card, so you shouldn't be that surprised. But look, you guys, if you know me, I know the pattern of the Vikings, which is to have a 13-14 win season and then immediately win 7-8 games the next year. And what they're doing right now is too good, and I don't trust them to have 2 bad seasons in a row. So I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, Sam Darnold's off the team. We'll talk about the Seahawks in a little bit. J.J. McCarthy now coming in as the starter. And here's some of the moves that the Vikings made. They re-signed Byron Murphy, their corner. He was a great corner last year, had one of his best seasons. They got Javon Hargrave from the 49ers. They got Jonathan Allen from the Commanders. That is one of the best, sneakiest pickups of the entire offseason. Great job by them. They re-signed Aaron Jones to keep their run game intact. Justin Jefferson seems happy with the contract he has. He's staying on the team. And then on top of that, to help out the young rookie, or I should say second year, I guess, Will Fries from the Colts, guard. Center, Ryan Kelly from the Colts as well. Great, super underrated interior offensive line. I don't know what the Colts are doing selling those guys, but once again, very suspicious. I don't understand how the Vikings are doing this, but they're actually playing it pretty well and smart so far, so we'll see what happens. And then finally, your third team, the Washington Commanders. Now, they haven't made a ginormous splash in terms of like offensive weapons for Jaden Daniels. Now, obviously, they signed Deebo Samuel. The reason why I'm not putting him in the category of a big splash is because I don't think he's elite anymore. I think he's a nice addition and depth piece and someone to take away attention from Terry McLaurin. That's about it. The big splash move, however, is on their left tackle. This is huge for protecting Jaden Daniels so he doesn't have to run around, especially at his weight. Laramie Tunsil from the Texans. That's crazy that the Texans sold him. The Texans are having a weird offseason. They're kind of in my honorable mention for the worst teams. I mean, they've been signing some good players, but it's not like positions of need necessarily. Now they're getting rid of their left tackle when CJ Stroud had one of the worst pressure rates last year. I don't know what's going on there in Houston. But, I mean, hey, the Commanders are benefiting from it, and that is a big move in their favor, and I love it for them. And then not to mention, they just lost Jonathan Allen. Go ahead and repair that defensive line. Javon Kinlaw. Great addition as well. I like what the Commanders are doing. It's nothing crazy, but they still have the draft coming up. Good job for them. All right, let's move on to our top 3 worst. Honorable mention, I just mentioned the Texans. Another one is the Jags that, you know, I would go into depth about how dysfunctional their organization is and how they're only 30 years old. And it's just like, how are they this irrelevant all the time? And they just keep throwing away any chance they have. They just signed De'Ami Brown, speaking of the Commanders, from the Commanders for 1 year, $10 million. I want to get paid $10 million for being average at my job. Just crazy. Let's just move on. Okay, let's talk about the 49ers for a second because, man, we all saw it coming at some point. They had a super team for a few years there, but they had to get rid of some of this roster and offload it. Not to mention, they haven't even paid Brock Purdy yet. Let me just list the starters that they lost so far this offseason. Deebo Samuel, Jaylen Brown, Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Juszczyk, Javon Hargrave, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, Leonard Floyd, and Aaron Banks. I mean, they're going to have Goop Beeples out there, like, running the team at this point. I don't know what's going on. They're going to have Brix Beckens at cornerback. They're going to have Devin Blake at linebacker. They're going to have Arturo Goose at defensive end. They almost signed Joey Bosa. They're like, nah, we don't want brothers on the same team. Fuck it. I don't know what's going on anymore with the 49ers. They're going to pay Brock Purdy $50+ million to have nobody around him when he literally proved last year if you just don't have a few of their Avengers on the team, he's an average quarterback. 49ers, I get it. You paid a lot of money to try to win that Super Bowl and your window closed and you didn't get it. But this is not good. This is really not good, which is why you cannot pay Brock Purdy. That's the only way that's going to save you guys from being a complete disaster this offseason. Not to mention, George Kittle's probably off the team next year because he's 33 and his contract's up. Good job. All right, 2 more teams left. Cincinnati Bengals. Now, obviously, they still have a good team, but the reason I'm putting it on there is because they just don't understand how to run a business and signing these players early enough so that these people don't want to walk. I mean, Mike Brown, genuinely one of the cheapest and worst owners in the NFL. I don't understand how Bengals fans can take this anymore. They have to be as frustrated as my dad certainly is. And I'm mentioning the fact that T. Higgins so far has not been paid. He's been franchise tagged, which is fine, but you have no long-term future with him. And then on the flip side, out of nowhere, Trey Hendrickson, their best player by far in defense, led the league in sacks last year, was like, yeah, I'm going to request a trade because fuck Cincinnati. And I don't blame him. First of all, Joe Burrow is clamoring all this time about we need to re-sign all our best guys. Let's keep the offense intact. Let's keep T. Higgins. But your defense is the main reason you missed the playoffs last year. And now you're just going to let Trey Hendrickson walk, one of the best players in the NFL. And now what are you going to do? You guys are going to go 8-9 if this happens. I mean, I'm sorry. Maybe you can reconstruct your own money to try and help out the offense, but not to mention the guy across from Trey Hendrickson on the other side of the defensive end, Sam Hubbard. He retired at 29. He was like, yep, I can only take 6 to 7 seasons in Cincinnati before I just want to get the fuck out of there. So, once again, players-wise, don't blame him at all. But this is just, oh my gosh, it just pisses me off. Every Chiefs fan is probably so happy other than me because I just want to see my dad be happy with the Bengals for once. It's just, I understand the pain. I understand the pain now. Yikes. And let's move on to our final team, the Seattle Seahawks, who have been a huge meme this offseason. Now, I actually am going to talk positively about them in 1 second. The main reason why I'm putting them on this list is because right now, their roster is just dead. They've just given away so many players. I mean, not to mention their 2 biggest offensive pieces, DK Metcalf, who went to the Steelers, and Tyler Lockett, who's still a free agent. Now, that one probably actually hurts more for Seahawks fans than the DK Metcalf one, because that's like if the Chiefs lost Travis Kelce. I mean, Tyler Lockett was there for 10 years. Their major move they made was obviously Geno Smith going to the Raiders and then signing Sam Darnold. 3 years, $110 million with 55 guaranteed. Now, look, some people look at this as like, wow, you literally just replaced a guy that was slightly above average with a guy that's slightly above average, like just a little bit more. But I actually do understand the move for 2 reasons. 1, Sam Darnold, this is actually cheaper than what Geno would have made, and he's younger. And he had a better season than Geno Smith did last year. So there's all 3 of those reasons. Second main reason, though, if you're Mike Macdonald, the head coach, now in your second year as a head coach, and you look back at your first year seeing Geno Smith go 10-7, you're like, all right, that's 100% a ceiling. Like, we've seen this now for 3 years. You're a middling team. At this point, get a guy who you like in Sam Darnold, who's still young, that you can pay like a Baker Mayfield-sized contract, and just tear everything else down and try to build it from the ground up. You still have Jackson Smith-Njigba, great player as a wide receiver. And now it's time to use the draft and try to make the team much younger. Yes, you might suck for a couple of years, but I think if you want to avoid being a middling team like the Steelers have been for a long time, like the Saints have been for a long time, like the Colts have been for a long time, it sucks right now, which is why they're on the top 3 worst list, but this might be the way to go, to just be like, look, this is the only way we're going to have to build up our own guys here and be good in a few years. So it's risky, but I understand it. So there you go. That's your top 3 worst. Some teams that I just feel like have been non-existent so far. The Cowboys, like, what are you guys doing so far this offseason? Just like last year. Jerry Jones, get the fuck out of there. The Colts, I don't think the Colts exist anymore. I'm just convinced. And then the Cardinals, I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about Josh Sweat for the next 38 years. Like, I know he almost won Super Bowl MVP, but nice pickup. That's all you guys have ever done. There you go. So far, those are a bunch of moves. There's a lot of moves I haven't even talked about yet, but don't worry, guys. We're going to have so much more NFL content. If we didn't get to one of your favorite teams or one of the big moves that you've wanted to talk about, we have tons of clips. So follow us at First and Gold on TikTok and Instagram. We post clips, reactions to free agency as well. We're going to have so many more offseason videos talking about the draft, record predictions, just different teams' moves in general. We still have plenty of big players, big names. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers haven't been signed yet, so there's still so much to talk about. This is only the first wave of free agency. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next episode. Go Chiefs, and Happy New Year.